Hello, everybody. This is Debra Goley. I'm coming to you from my studio here in Goodyear, Arizona, which is just a few miles west of downtown Phoenix. And I've been here, gosh, I probably have been here 20 years now. I'm originally from Texas via DC and then Texas again. I have also lived overseas when my parents were working overseas. And so I've lived in Middle East and the Caribbean. And so I've kind of been exposed to a lot of different cultures, a lot of different styles of architecture and art, which led me to loving art and architecture. And so when I was trying to figure out what to do with my career in college years, I was already doing art a lot, like all the time. And I never even had time for art classes because I wanted to dance and sing and do all the things in the performing arts. And I just wanted to be an artist as my career. And Dad said, yeah, that's great, but you might starve. So you might think about something else. So I went into architecture school. I still got to design and do a lot of fun projects. And of course you get in the real world. And I did that for 15 years working for firms in Washington, DC. And that was really eye-opening for me because I still got to see lots of architecture, history. I worked for 3 different firms and I was still involved very heavily in art and design. Fast forward, I've now been a full-time artist for 20 years and I love it. And it all happened. I got out of architecture because I wanted a family. And God blessed us with 2 beautiful children. And this, being an artist, allowed me to really tap into my creative side. And since I had all those business skills, I was able to not starve. I mean, it's still not as lucrative, but it's actually very rewarding for me as an individual, as a person, and how I'm uniquely made. So how did I get into fiber art, quilting arts? Well, my mom was a master quilter and she was teaching the Arab ladies overseas. And I wanted nothing to do with any of that. In fact, she kept trying to get me to just, when I'd come home for Christmas, try a little handwork or, turn on the machine. I'll just teach you how to do a stitch. Everybody needs to know how to do that. No, I wanted nothing to do with that. I was way too busy doing all of my paintings and doing murals, and no way was I gonna do what she did. Well, she passed away 8 years ago and left me with a sewing machine and an entire quilt shop. She had 2 quilt shops in the Houston area. And she left me with a ton of stuff. And I may or may not show you all the ton of stuff. I've actually gotten down to just 1/6 of the inventory at this point. But I felt so compelled to start collaging and to like putting everything together that she touched and tried to figure out, like, what is a stiletto? Like all these crazy things that I had no clue what to do. I called a lady in my area, got some sewing lessons, took every fiber class I could think of, and lo and behold, I fell in love with it. It's just another extension of doing art and drawing with my needle, which is super cool and fun. So if I kind of walk you around my studio, you'll kind of get an idea of where I'm at in my journey. So let's do that. So here I am in my lovely, what do you call it? My kitchen family room. I just decided long ago that I didn't need a family room. And the kids weren't using it either. And so this became my, if you can see it, became my lovely thrift find of a table for $30. And I teach 6 kids here 3 days a week. And I also teach at a public school half time. And then if I swing my little camera around, you can get to see that domestic machine that, oops, are you looking that way now? Let's see. I'm kind of giving you the 360 here, aren't I? You don't need to see the kitchen, right? Okay, that's back on my table and you can see all my supplies, and sometimes I do online teaching as well. then you go over here. And you get to see my domestic work. At least I'm trying to do that. So you can see that I have a piece that's laying here right now, and it happens to be for the Four Common Corners group that I belong to. And I'll just back way out and you can see that piece. The Four Common Corners group started at the beginning of 2020, and we have been together, a group of 13 artists from the Four Corner states, Utah, New Mexico, Arizona, and Colorado. And I love it. I absolutely love it that we do 4 to 5 call to arts per year. And we get together once a month on Zoom and we chit chat and we hold each other accountable. And all these ladies came to me through SAQA, which is awesome. So what does SAQA mean to me? Well, I will tell you that how do I say this? I am forever grateful for SAQA. I was taking a class with Katie Pasquini Matsupat, and I was in Colorado and got the little flyer on SAQA and realized that this might just be the thing for me. So I reached out to them. I got a mentor right away. I had them critique my work, set up my spreadsheets, all my art, and started entering competitions. What little did I know is how unique the group is and how we all talk to one another and share ideas. And it's just been probably one of the best things that's come out of this new arm of my my art business, because I didn't even know anything about how the medium worked and how I could market it in the fine art world. And so I enter most of my things in fine art competitions. And like this one here, right behind me, just won a first place ribbon and just got back from a gallery. And it's one that I had created with my Four Common Corners group. So it's just exciting and rewarding to be able to take my art to a different level, a different depth of perception with drawing with my needle. So I will tell you that you're probably interested in Light of the World, which is in your museum at this point, and you're probably thinking, how did she come up with that? So I'm just going to go ahead and give you a little bit about that. I saw the call to art. I had already started kind of a series where I was working on crosses, and they were very meaningful shapes to me. And I saw that, and I was already thinking about the prickly pear here in Arizona. You can see I'm affected a lot by my surroundings of flora and fauna. And of course, that's the agave, but I hadn't done one with the prickly pear. I'd done the giant Argentinian. I love nature. I'm inspired by nature all around me. We have some of the most fabulous sculptural forms against a very, what would look like a mundane and tan and gray and dark ground. But those greens, when they just pop, they really stand out. So I have a prickly pear in my front, my back. I have them everywhere. They bloom in the springtime. But what about the times when they're not blooming? They're still fascinating. They're still beautiful in the light. So I took a photograph, and I'll just try to hold this up for you. I took a photograph. It wasn't this saturated in color, but I put it into my Photoshop. And I made sure that I could study it in different colorways and see if I wanted to go more toward the red violets or if I wanted to be true to the greens. And this one didn't win out. Didn't really love that one. A lot of times I'll paint my work before I actually put it into the computer to then study it in a different color. But in this case, I had taken the photograph, studied the color. I did not paint it. And then I did a little line drawing over that, which everybody usually comes up with a little line drawing, right? So you can see I've got the little pads, and then I've got those crisscrosses, those crosses that I was talking about. Then I took my math skills, you know, as an architect, I had to use my math skills. So how am I going to blow it up from this 8 by 10? And you can see all my little chicken scratch on there where I've got inches and how I'm going to make each of those circles a different size. And then guess what happens, right? This one does, this is, I usually trace, you know, using a little acetate over there so that I can really study the piece. And I found out some really cool stuff, that those crisscrosses, not only the crisscrosses in the big scheme of things, but there's actually crisscrosses connecting all of the thorns, the things you discover when you really break it down. Then what I did, speaking of breaking it down, I like to work in reverse applique. I didn't know I'd like to work in reverse applique. So what I do is I take 3, I'm just going to walk over to my current project so I can show you how I do it. I like to work in light, medium, and darks, right? So in this case, when I'm working on the 4 common corners piece currently, for heads or tails, that's called art. Okay, I have a little piece of fabric here, and this piece of fabric has 3 layers. So there is a light on the top, right? And then we have a medium in the middle. And then we have I'm just going to type it down here. Then you have another piece of fabric, which is the bottom piece. So when I'm working, I'm cutting through 3 to 5 layers of light to dark. And then that's how I'm exposing, in this case, the fish scales, but in the case of the cacti, I'm exposing the different pads. So when I started to cut through, here's my piece of paper. Da, 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 da. I know I'm all over the place here with my iPad. I'll turn it this way. You can see that I'm starting to cut out all the little circles. And yes, it's tedious. Usually takes me on this one that you're looking at in the museum about 200 hours from the concept to the finished design. So I'm exposing the light values, I'm exposing the medium value, and I'm exposing the dark. You can see that one of them has light and dark, medium, all in the same pad. And that to me speaks to light the world, because at different times of the day, the light's changing. And so sometimes my prickly pear are in full light, and sometimes it's dark and all I see are the really dark greens. And I love it any time of the day, but that's my inspiration for light the world. And here we go. We've got how big the whole thing actually looks hanging on my design wall. And you can see all the pads now exposed. And of course, you're seeing it right in front of you in the museum. And then I have to decide how I'm going to stitch it, which to me is just as important as the rest of my design, because I want to be able to draw with that needle. And I will tell you that I do not take that lightly. So I will go back to my sketchbook, and you can see, like in the upper hand corner, I'm already figuring out, well, maybe I want this to look like rocks and pebbles. And so I'm already sketching that out. Sometimes I'll think about my color as I'm working, and I will go and do another sketch, like that's the fish that I'm doing right now for 4 common corners. And you can see I'll do some colored pencil sketches, because there's something about a hand drawing versus my computer that allows me to pause and gives me more freedom of motion. And I feel like it's just it's a time of rest, whereas the computer doesn't give me that rest. So I hope you enjoy your exhibit of seeing different lighting the world. I had the magazine somewhere and I've probably covered over it. If you want to see the process in more detail of how I do my reverse applique, this particular issue in Art Quilting Studio came out in autumn of 2020, and you'll see inside an article I wrote, and you'll see how I cut through the different layers and expose the light and the dark. So I hope you enjoy your visit to the museum and all the fabulous artists. And until I see you again, either in person or in another exhibit, I wish you well and keep creating because you are uniquely creative. Bye.